Today is a great day. A wonderful speaker, and it's our pleasure. We're going to be inducting 3 new members to our club. So you'll hear more about that. Yay! We have a couple of announcements before we really get started. We're going to hand out a survey. There's a pen that you can keep that's at each table. But this is a survey. You take a few minutes to fill this out and hand it back in. It's anonymous, but it's just a questionnaire because this is your club and we want you to have as much input as you think we should be doing. But I also want to share with you, this is our leadership, our board of directors, our foundation board, and our trust committee. So we want your name up here. So we're going to hand out another thing with committees, possible committees that you can serve and beyond. So there's going to be a lot going on while you're listening and everything else. So the main thing is we've got our first past president leader today is going to be our esteemed Robin Shelley. Those that don't know, he's a past president of our club. He's past district governor. He was the district foundation chair. He's attended 17 international conventions, and he's multiple Paul Harris donor and Arch Club Society. And the main thing is he's been married to his beautiful bride for 57 years. 57 years.
Well, to begin the meeting, first of all, I'm honored to be designated as the first president for a day. Yeah. Our actual Rotary Club president, of course, is Diane Lansford. But this is the way she wants to run these meetings. She wanted to have past presidents do like MC duties for each of the live meetings that we do have. But we're all there to support Diane, and we're all there to help her have an outstanding year as president of the Rotary Club of Miami for Rotary year 2024-2025. Yeah, she mentioned that I was president of the club, and yes, I was. I was president in 1996, 97. That was the last millennium. Wow. Yeah. Where have we gone since then? That was 28 years ago. 28 years ago, I was president. But, oh my God, as long as you're having fun, time goes by fast. So, a lot has changed over this 28 years. That was before Phil Sipe actually became treasurer. I can imagine that far back. He was not treasurer yet. And that was when Norby still had hair.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Show him, Norby. There you go. Okay, yes. That was before Diane Lansberg became known as our house mother.
Which was through
her wonderful hostess activities that she provides to everybody, our club and youth exchanges and all the youth things that she does. So she's everybody's house mother. And that was before Don Van Orsdale let a lot of our members down. Phil Sipe is going to introduce our visitors and guests for the day.
I told Robin back when I was a newer member, and that was one of the jobs we gave the new members. We were a club of 200, and I was always scared to do this particular job because I was always afraid someone would show up from Honduras. And I could not say Tegucigalpa back then. So I just said, I'll do anything else but introduce guests. But today we are very pleased to have with our guest speaker, who will be introduced in a while, Officer Mackenzie Aladdin is with us, Neighborhood Resort Resource Officer. And we had Mario Gonzalez, but I think he snuck off or something. Anyway, but thank you for coming and joining us and giving the eldest all the support he needs today. Steve Dutton has a guest, Ron Shlomi, Ron. Okay. You've seen her before and you'll see her again, Kati Prizik. She's archived one, and they're prospective members, and everybody else that you don't recognize is going to be introduced as a new member today, so we'll save that. So I'm not missing anybody.
Very good. And And those that were not mentioned, quite a few of those are going to be inducted as new members today. And our chief inductor will be Norby Rudell. Would you like to come up and be honored? Yeah, this is the most important thing that can ever happen in a
For
Rotary.
dressing in orange in memory of the Dutch national team who lost to England yesterday. As you know, I am full-blooded Dutchman, and my friend Ian is from England, so we had a few words. But anyway, we also have, as I scan the room, and it's not John, we have Jordan Budnick from Frost Science here, and the inimitable Sheila Lewis. And whoever came up with this idea, thank you so much for letting me be the master of inductors. That sounded a little weird, but that was a strange one, yeah. Fellow Rotarians and honored guests, and Robin.
Thank you.
On behalf of the Rotary Club of Miami, it is my privilege and pleasure to induct you 3 new members today into our great club. Please allow me to introduce Sheila Lewis and Jordan Budnick in the middle, and then Martha Wojtek right here to my left. Sheila, Jordan, and Martha, you are continuing a great adventure in leadership, in friendship, and in service to your community and your fellow man and woman. You've been invited to membership, and the Rotary Club of Miami has accepted you as a person of good character, high ethical standards, a good heart for service, and giving to others. I don't know how they came up with that with Sheila here, but she's a New Yorker, right? So anything goes. You've been invited to become part of a worldwide organization dedicated to encouraging and fostering the IBLA service as a basis of worthy enterprise. You've been invited to join Rotary, but it will be through your own actions that you become a Rotarian. We do encourage you to continue to learn all that you can about Rotary and to strengthen your own leadership and communication skills by actively participating in the activities of the club, including attending meetings. Yeah, my voice changed there because we need to see you, all right?
So far, they have perfect attendance.
So far, perfect attendance. We'd love to also see you at social events, town halls. That's something we have not a lot of, but if we have one, we expect to see you there. And service projects. You'll be provided with many opportunities through our club and district to enhance and expand your personal skills, and these opportunities can provide great value to you. You'll also be provided with many opportunities to provide service to others through club service, community service, and international service. Now, as you know, the Rotary Club of Miami is well known for its great work in the community and its involvement for many years in a variety of local and international projects. We welcome your strong arms and strong hearts for service in joining the Rotary Club of Miami. Through your membership, you'll enjoy a network of business leaders and professionals like yourself, and we commit ourselves to do our part in making you feel welcome and at home in the club. As you know, when we join Rotary, we become part of something bigger than ourselves and beyond enriching our own lives and the lives of our family members. The relationships that we build fosters understanding across communities and cultures around the globe. Personally, I'm proud to be a Miami Rotarian, and it is my pleasure to provide this pin by which your fellow Rotarians and the community at large will recognize you by. We ask that you wear it proudly and often. Do we have the pins today?
Perfect.
Robin, wait. The president has spoken. We'll get to the pins in one moment. With that, I declare you duly inducted into the Rotary Club of Miami and the newest Rotarians in the world. Know that when you shake the hand of one Rotarian, it's very true. I mean, think about it, right? when you shake the hand of one Rotarian, you are within the reach of 1.4 million more Rotarians worldwide. Together, we are working to enrich the youth, ensure health, develop communities, and promote peace. Everybody, would you please rise again for a moment and help me welcome our newest members, Sheila Lewis, Jordan Butnick, and Martha Wojtek. Fantastic. Guys, thank you again, guys and gals. Thank you so much again and welcome to the club. Great to have you. And we look forward to keep on having you. All right. One last round of applause for our new members. Thank you.
Introduce the person who's going to introduce the person who's going to introduce the person. Steve Dutton. I didn't know where he was. Last time I communicated with Steve, he was in Homer, Alaska, visiting my brother-in-law in Homer, Alaska. And I had no idea he was back in Miami. So I called him this morning and said, Steve, where are you? I know you're going to introduce the speaker, but I thought you were going to do it online and, you know, from halfway around the world, probably Tahiti or some exotic place like that. But he's here with us today, and he will in live and in person introduce our speakers for the day. Steve?
Greetings, I am back. I'll be only for another week, unfortunately, because I fly to Boston next Friday and continue this now 3-year plan world cruise. I'm almost at the end of the second year.
How many more months in the cruise?
Well, to the end of next year. So it's pretty amazing. I had the pleasure of attending Rotary meetings in, let's see, Hobart, Tasmania, Prince Rupert, Canada. I met Robin's brother-in-law. It was an amazing day in Homer. But my job today is simple. I'm introducing a friend that I've known for several years now. We met at a different time of our life. And of course, since then, he's become a new father again. He's got a young baby girl, and he's got a 10-year-old son. You know, my life, needless to say, has changed a lot too. But I know you're going to be excited to hear from our presenter because he's talking about future vision planning for the Miami Police Department. And at the time I met him, he was an assistant to the chief at that time. I forget his name, forgive me, but that was 3 chiefs ago, 2 or 3 chiefs ago. Manny, of course, is our new chief, but also a dear friend. Our presenter is amazing. He is advanced from officer rank. He's now the downtown commander for the Miami Police Department, in charge of all police resources. And so he's going to talk about vision planning for public safety. Please join me in welcoming Eldis Diaz, our commander.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So, on behalf of Chief Manuel Morales, I want to thank you all for inviting me here today. I'm a huge fan of the Rotary Club and your storied history, in particular in Miami, as a lifelong resident, born and raised here in Magic City. I sincerely appreciate your service over the entirety of my life. You've made an enormous difference. I'd also like to thank my friend Steve for helping bring me here today. So I'm going to be talking to you today about future planning for public safety. And so what do we mean by public safety future planning? So sometimes you hear about this sort of thing. You hear a number of words being tossed around. So we hear about risks and threats, and people use those interchangeably, but they don't really mean the same thing. So a risk is something that is likely to cause harm, right? And a threat is the potential harm a threat is the thing that's likely to cause harm, and the risk is the potential harm that's posed by that threat. And often when we think about what police departments do, right, you think about officers on patrol and you think of that force presence. And really what people consider is risk mitigation, right? So how do we make it so that we just don't have those risks in a space? That's what high visibility patrol work is for, right? You have officers in place to discourage problematic events from occurring. And then sometimes we hear this other word, which is resilience, right? And sometimes in the public sector, we hear it as resiliency, which is kind of a fake word, right? It's really resilience. And so what resilience is the ability to withstand those threats. And the fact is that you can't mitigate every risk out there in the world. So you have to make sure that your community is is resilient enough to withstand those impacts when a problematic event occurs. So public safety planning, when we're looking towards the future, is really about developing practices for minimizing the community's risk exposure while improving its resiliency to those impacts that it cannot mitigate. So what does our safety landscape look like in Miami? Well, right now things are pretty good, right? In terms of both per capita and absolute crime, our violent crime is at the lowest level that it's ever been, right? It almost makes me nervous sometimes because you have to posit that there's an absolute crime floor below which crime cannot fall, and we are more than likely nearing it. Homicides are at their lowest rate adjusted for population ever. Violent crime is very, very low. We do have property crime, which now we're able to leverage some of our resources to address. So right now, things are pretty good for people who live in Miami. You won't necessarily know that from looking at social media, right? I think the role of social media is to make us all very anxious. But in meaningful, real terms, you're safer today in the city of Miami than at any point, at least in my life. And I grew up in the 80s. So. Having said that, there's no guarantee that those conditions are going to exist in perpetuity. And in fact, we have to think that communities go through change, right? We've seen communities change over the course of our lives. Some cities have ups and downs. I look at Detroit and Chicago and New York and San Francisco, and I look at how those communities have changed and how the crime landscape in those communities have changed over the course of my lifetime, and how indeed Miami has changed as well. So there are two things that we really think about. The first one is critical incidents. Right, so critical incidents are those low frequency but very high impact events that you hear about in the news. Those are your active shooter, active killer events, these are active terrorism, but they're also severe weather events, right? You got a tornado strike, you got that hurricane that is the Category 5 storm with a storm surge that winds up striking the community, like we saw in the Panhandle just a couple of years ago, to devastating effect. And so we really think in terms of those really high impact events, but you've also got what I think of as persistent or structural crime that's a part of the community landscape. And this is crime that really affects everybody, right? So, and we can think of those in different categories. We can think of those quality of life crimes, right? The folks who are vandalizing buildings in the area, or they're leaving trash everywhere, right? Your overall quality of life is impacted by that kind of crime. And then you've got property crimes, burglaries, thefts, things of that nature. And then you've got your violent crimes. And that's really what we tend to focus around, at least in major cities. So when we think about how we plan for the future, we're really thinking about how we mitigate or build resilience around those two categories of things, right? Critical events and persistent crime. And so I want to talk about first, critical incident resilience. So I'm not sure if any of you had the opportunity to visit our real-time crime center. So my police department has all kinds of really exciting technologies. So in the 80s, we were the first agency in the country to have automated fingerprint identification. And so we continue to have a number of innovative projects that come online through our agency. Right now, our real-time crime center hosts hundreds of surveillance camera feeds and dozens of license plate readers deployed strategically throughout the city. And I know that makes some people nervous, right? From a civil rights perspective, you want to make sure that your government is not always monitoring you. And I'm here to tell you that it is impossible to monitor you. So having hundreds of cameras does not mean that you have hundreds of officers to perpetually view those cameras. And the research tells us that even the most highly trained officer can only maintain their attention on a camera feed for about 15 minutes at a time, let alone hundreds of feeds to choose from. So why then do we have so many of these cameras? What's the value of them? And I would submit to you that there's not really a lot of proactive value to having those cameras right now. I'd say that there's a lot of reactive value. So when we're doing an investigation, It's an incredible resource for us. As a former homicide detective, I can tell you that if you've got video of an incident, it's a huge relief, especially now that there are fewer and fewer people willing to come forward as witnesses to testify in court. It's very handy to have an objective piece of evidence that we can present. But no, that's an after the fact thing, right? What we are hoping to get to with our real-time crime center is to actually be working in real time. And so to be able to leverage a robust camera infrastructure like that, we really need to be able to utilize computer systems that can algorithmically identify problematic events. And we have algorithms like that, right? We have algorithms which can count objects in video streams. We already have this, right? We have algorithms that can show you where you have soft target densities developing. We have algorithms which can identify when a man with a red shirt is seen in a camera in your feed. Having said that, though, those algorithms are incredibly expensive. Right, so the development process around building one of those video analytics systems means that you have to train an AI engine around it. So I'm sure some of you maybe use ChatGPT. That's sort of the craze right now. You put in a prompt and ChatGPT does your homework for you. Really remarkable piece of technology. And so the way that works, and really all machine learning systems work by using a scoring algorithm that just runs across hundreds of graphics processing units. And it just keeps on running until it starts to look right. So it's brute forcing. They say that it's artificial intelligence, but it's really not. The computers themselves are quite dumb. But they sort of mimic intelligence in the way that your parrot can mimic your speech. And so it's expensive to develop these systems, and for law enforcement agencies to utilize them, you wind up having to pay a premium. And so that premium winds up being passed on to the taxpayer. My concern, and it's the same concern that I have with the way that the body-worn cameras have gone. Right now, there's effectively a monopoly on body-worn camera. There's really one company that provides body-worn cameras to law enforcement agencies now, I think globally. And so you've got one vendor who can dictate pricing to you. I worry that similar things are happening in other spaces when we stop investing as a public sector in the development of these tools. So what I would like to see is the development of open source video analytics systems that allow agencies across the country to build these kinds of capabilities and leverage them across their existing camera infrastructure without having to make an enormous investment. And so to that end, I've been talking to our partners over at Miami-Dade College. So I had no idea. So when I became the downtown commander, I did my meet and greet with the folks over at Miami-Dade. They have like a whole artificial intelligence lab now. They have programs that are built around cybersecurity and other things. And it's really exciting because most of the students that they're getting are not, and this actually ties into the second part of my presentation, but most of the students that they're getting are not fresh out of high school. These are people who are moving on to their second or third career and are pivoting into a technology role. So I mention this because we're working on putting together a project where we actually use some of the resources that they have at Miami-Dade, and we start training against the camera feeds that we have to start building some of these capabilities. And so one of the capabilities that I'd like to see, particularly because we're in a coastal area, is flood detection. So it's an issue that affects everyone, right? I mean, if you live in Brickell or Edgewater, and after the last storm, Edgewater was really just the water. We'd love to be able to do live alerts when we start to see that those waters are rising, so that we can shut down streets and not leave people stranded. Long-term projects would be when we have shootings that are originating from high rises, doing the muzzle flash detection, so that we can immediately identify which apartment is the source of the identifier. And so the capabilities are there, right? But in practical terms, we can't reach them because we just can't afford to buy all of these things. So if we can't afford to buy them all, why not build them? And that's my hope in partnering with some of our academic institutions to be able to develop that capability so that we can rapidly respond and mitigate the long-term impact of having an unaddressed shooter or an unaddressed flooding event in the area. So the other thing, and this is sort of an unusual space for a police officer to get into, but I'd like to talk about the economy for a moment. So we talked about critical events, but persistent crime is much less developed, is much less premised on exposure to these kinds of critical events than it is to overall weaknesses in the economic landscape of the community. And so Miami's doing very well right now. And Miami's doing well largely on the strength of its real estate market, right? And so there's a fragility there, a real fragility. And should there be an impact to those real estate values, we're going to have a large inventory of housing which is going to be vacant. We saw something very similar during the last economic crisis. And I worry about our resilience in terms of job opportunities for people in the community. We don't really have a well stratified series of job prospects for community members. We have really good opportunities for people at the very high earning tiers who have an extraordinary amount of mobility already. So they could, if things start to look grim, move to another state, right? Miami's beautiful, but it's not the kind of place where, unfortunately, most people have really deep roots. It's a young city and continues to be young. And I applaud you guys for investing in the long-term future of our city. As someone who never wants to leave Miami, I'm really worried that we're going to have these kinds of unaddressed risks in our economic landscape. So how do we mitigate something like that, right? What do we do? And the way that I see it, things are actually really complicated. Our education system is not really built around rapid retraining. And so the old days where you could have a job where it became a career, where you would be doing that for 35, 40 years until you retired, they're largely gone, right? Those job opportunities just don't exist anymore. And so industries are born and die every year. New job paradigms develop that we just didn't know were going to be job opportunities in the past. So you look at the AI landscape today, or cybersecurity, where there's a million job shortfall. If we wait for people who are interested in those kinds of roles to finish a master's degree, it's going to be 6 years until they're able to meet that job shortfall. And it's just not reasonable to expect that. So our university system has served us very well over the last couple hundred years, right? I have a bachelor's degree in philosophy. I'm very fortunate to have learned about phenomenology and hermeneutics. I don't know that the overall future of our city should be premised on the idea of being forced to take a literature course in your first undergraduate year. I think that dependency is making us less responsive. And where we feel it the most are at the lower echelons of our economy, right? So working class people, they have the most that they are risking when they take out loans for their college education. And they're the ones who are the most exposed when the jobs that they trained for just don't exist anymore. So what am I proposing here? Two things. One, I think that we need to start seriously exploring rapid retraining systems. And so what I mean is, so in the technology world, you saw a number of these boot camps start to develop over the past, say, 10 years or so. And they're 9 to 12-week programs where you have someone who's developing a very specific skill in an intensive space that makes them immediately marketable. And that works really well in technology, but there's There's no reason why that couldn't be applied to other spaces. There's no reason why that couldn't be applied to construction. There's no reason why that couldn't be applied to the hospitality industry. So what I would recommend, it's something that I've talked about with different people in our city government, is to one, get an understanding of what our day-to-day job landscape actually is. So if we had a portal where everybody who has a job vacancy in our city is they're posting their job openings in the portal, we could mine that portal to know at a glance what the job opportunities in our community actually are. And we could determine where our skill shortfalls are locally. And when we see that we've got a critical shortage of people in a particular field, we could sponsor a very rapid retraining cycle to have a bespoke workforce where we can get people working very, very quickly and meet some of those unmet business needs in our community, and hopefully get people to stay here when the times get a little bit tougher, and make it so that when those real estate impacts occur, well, you've still got so many people who are earning that the overall strength of our community is not gutted, right? We'll feel the blow, but we'll be resilient enough to withstand it. So I apologize if I've stumbled over anything. I have a 6-month-old at home. She's going through a sleep regression, so if I'm not, if I miss words, then I apologize. So those are the kinds of things that we're looking towards. When we think about public safety planning at the Miami Police Department, we're thinking very broadly. We're thinking narrowly in terms of how we wind up addressing our current shortfalls. We are, like many other agencies across the country, we've had some difficulty hiring, not as much difficulty as, say, Seattle or some of our partner agencies over on the West Coast. But there are challenges. So we need to find ways to leverage technology to minimize our dependence on new hires to meet those needs. With that, I hope that you guys are as excited about the future here as I am. I know I've painted kind of a grim picture of apocalyptic possibilities in the future. The truth is that we live and work in one of the most beautiful cities in the world. I have every morning that I drive in, and I'm able to look at the coastline, and I try to remind our officers, look around you. Sure, we start our day at the worst part of someone else's day, but it's in the most gorgeous space possible. So I hope I haven't prattled on too long. I'm deeply appreciative of the opportunity to speak to you all today, and I don't know if there are any questions or.
Okay, I put $5 happy. I mean, this is my first meeting, and I just appreciate everyone that has come here today. And of course, Jay has been working behind the scenes. He got us a new Zoom account, so we now don't have to have anyone log us in. We just dial it up and we're ready to go. So the committees that we really want you to help serve on, if you want to have a committee Zoom meeting, you will have access to our Zoom account without having to have the whole attachment of somebody having to be the host. And if anyone wants the shirts, we've already got, Susie's got one shirt, we'll let you know. And next week, we're going to have a Zoom meeting, which Jay is going to show a lot of the pictures that we had from the July 4th. And again, thanking the Van Orsdales for doing such a fabulous hosting. And we had a lot of food. A lot of food was left over though, too.
It's beautiful.
But I did feel the need to bribe my recycling guys because my bin was full. I take home this stuff, and Maria took the rest. But it was just, it was such a nice event. The weather it cooperated with us. We're afraid of rain. It wasn't really too hot, but it was really nice. But then the following week on the 25th, the Zoom is going to still be noon, 12:30. But all the notices are going to go out, so you're going to have all of the information. And the dinner meeting is going to be back at my house. I mean, it just makes it easier on the 25th. So, I mean, I've already told Phil, he is like he says, what did you buy? When he sees the receipts that come in on the account. but I'm going to make lasagna again. So it just makes it, make the big pot, so it feeds, for like 150 people, you could feed 35 people. So it's an economic thing, but I enjoy doing it. And so I said, I just pour my wine and start drinking, and I'm making the sauce, and it's like, so that really works.
Sometimes you put food.
That's exactly correct. So the last thing, Maria, I need you to come up. Okay, Maria, as you know, we named her Rotarian of the Year for last year, but I haven't this didn't arrive in time. Come here.
Oh, they're good with this.
One of the things about being the Rotarian of the Year, there's a select. She truly was Norby's right hand, and she's been mine, so she's got now a right hand.
I got scared. There was
I saw the old laughing, the fickle finger of fate.
Okay, that's happy. But let's Bill, do I have any money in my account? Yes, you do. Yes, I do. Okay, put $10 for me, for being allowed to be the first president of the day. I appreciate that. Thank you, Diane, for asking me to do that. It's kind of fun. Once you do this, it's a fun job to have, to be president of the Rotary Club of Miami. So think about it. All you new members, think about leadership positions. Think about how you can do your best to help this club grow and prosper and have good ideas and be creative in the way we do things. So,
How many cards?
okay, let's see. We have the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do, and that's going to be led by Frank Fortek.
Hey, Frank.
Please join me in the four-way test. I was gonna bring my teleprompter and put it up, but I don't have to, because Diane brought these coins around so you can follow me on the coin.
That's right. Read the coin.
Yeah, if I could read it. So help me to fire the four-way test of things we say.
First,
It isn't true.
second,
Sorry.
Third, fourth, and fifth.
Is it fun?